Today, we're diving into a really cool scientific framework that tries to answer a huge question. Why are religious concepts so catchy, psychologically speaking? It turns out our minds might just be naturally wired to believe in the supernatural. So, let's start with the central puzzle. I mean, think about it. You've got thousands of cultures spread all across the globe, all through history, and yet the kinds of supernatural things they come up with, ghosts that can walk through walls, ancestors who watch over the living, gods who know your every thought, they all share these really specific, strangely similar features. How does that happen?
To even begin to solve this, we've got to look past the usual answers. And this is where cognitive anthropologist Pascal Boyer comes in. He argues that the common reasons we think we have religion, well, they don't really hold up when you look at the evidence.
Right, so we often hear that religion is here to explain suffering or to make us be good to each other. But Boyer says, hang on a minute. When anthropologists are out in the field, they find people aren't really wrestling with the big philosophical question of why is there evil in the world? They're much more concerned with why did that roof collapse on me and not my neighbor? And as for morality, well, the most basic rules, like don't kill your family, they're everywhere, with or without the same kind of religion. So if it's not about those big explanations, what is it? Well, Boyer argues the real answer starts somewhere totally different. Not with religion itself, but with the basic, hidden blueprints inside your mind, the mental tools you use to understand, well, everything. See, your brain comes with these fundamental templates already installed. You can think of them like mental folders. When you see something new, your mind instantly files it away into a category, like person, or animal, or tool. And the important part is, each folder comes loaded with a whole set of default expectations. For instance, you only have one single animal template in your head, but it lets you understand a house cat, a blue whale, and a weird beetle you've never seen before. You don't have to be taught from scratch that each one of them was born, needs to eat, and will eventually die. That information just comes for free with the template. And what's amazing is how fast and powerful this is. If I tell you a made-up fact, like a zygoon is a predator of hyenas, your brain doesn't just store that one little piece of data. Nope. It instantly activates the animal template, and you automatically assume zygoons have babies, need food, and you get the picture. I don't have to tell you any of that. Okay, so we have these mental templates for everyday stuff, but what in the world does that have to do with believing in gods? Well, as it turns out, these same templates provide the perfect, simple recipe for creating a supernatural concept that is both believable and super memorable. It's like a cognitive recipe, really. Just 3 simple steps. First, you pick a basic template, like person. Step 2, you add one little violation to its default rules. For example, this person is invisible. But, and this is absolutely the key, you keep everything else the same. They still have thoughts, they still have desires, they still remember things, just like a regular person. And this super simple formula explains so much. It's why a concept like a ghost is so common and feels so intuitive to us. It's just a person with one little rule broken. Our social brain can still run wild making guesses about what the ghost wants or what it knows, but a god who only exists on Wednesdays, that's what you'd call a cognitive dead end. It's just too weird and our brains can't make any useful social guesses about it. All right, so this whole idea builds on a really core principle about how our minds work. It's all about hitting a cognitive sweet spot. Think about it this way. On one hand, you have concepts that are perfectly normal, like a man walks down the street. Our brain just goes, yep, got it, and immediately forgets it. It's boring. On the other extreme, you have something totally bizarre, like our mountain that only exists on Wednesdays. It's so weird, our brain doesn't know what to do with it, so it gets discarded. But right there in the middle is the sweet spot. A man who can walk through walls. It's just a little bit weird. We call this minimally counterintuitive, and it's attention-grabbing, and for some reason, incredibly easy for us to remember and tell other people. So here's the crucial point, and Boyer says it perfectly. While one physical rule might be broken, like being invisible, all the hundreds of other rules from the original template, like the person template, stay in place. An invisible spirit might violate physics, but our brain just assumes it has thoughts and beliefs and goals, and that gives our social mind a ton to work with. But hold on, just being memorable isn't quite enough. For a supernatural concept to really take off and spread through a whole culture, it needs to do one more very important thing. It has to hook into the most powerful and most active part of our brain, our social intelligence. Let's be honest, Our brains aren't just blank sponges soaking everything up equally. We're picky. We are constantly scanning the world for what Boyer calls strategic information. Basically, all the juicy details that are relevant to our social lives.
I mean, think about our evolutionary history. What was the information that was absolutely critical for survival? It was stuff like this. Who can I trust? Who's a cheater? Who knows what I did last night? We are, at our very core, gossiping machines fine-tuned to track this kind of social info.
And this is the master stroke. This is where it all clicks into place. The reason concepts like all-knowing gods or watchful ancestral spirits are so incredibly successful across cultures is because they tap directly into our brain's obsession with who knows what. A being that has full, unrestricted access to everyone's secrets, well, that's the ultimate source of strategic information, and our social minds find that absolutely compelling.
So, when we put all of these pieces together, the basic mental templates, the simple recipe for creating memorable, minimally counterintuitive concepts, and our brain's laser focus on social information, we end up with a really powerful conclusion. The big takeaway here is that religion probably isn't something our brains were specially designed for. Instead, it seems to be an almost inevitable byproduct of how our minds work anyway. Religious concepts are simply the ideas that are perfectly adapted to survive and spread in the unique environment of the human mind. The exact same mental tools that help you figure out what a Zigguan is are the ones that make the idea of an invisible, all-knowing spirit feel so natural. And that leaves us with a final, pretty provocative thought to chew on. If belief in these kinds of supernatural agents emerges so naturally from the ordinary, everyday machinery of our minds, then what does that say about the line we try to draw between religious faith and simple intuition? Maybe that line isn't nearly as clear as we like to think.